Welcome to our channel. In this video, we'll uncover the complex family history and tumultuous relationships that shaped Jennifer Aniston's early life and continued to affect her into adulthood. From her parents' strict Hollywood standards and their painful separation to the poignant reconciliation attempts and ultimate heartbreak, Jennifer's journey is a powerful example of perseverance in the face of adversity. Stay tuned as we reveal the circumstances that shaped one of television's most beloved actresses, offering a glimpse into the personal struggles behind her on-screen success. Jennifer Aniston may be the beautiful girl next door to TV audiences. However, the young star was never quite able to achieve this level of perfection in the eyes of her mother. Jennifer and her mother maintained a very tumultuous relationship until her mother's death in 2016. Jennifer has also had a difficult relationship with her father over the years. Although Jennifer has mended her relationship with her father, her relationship with her mother will forever be tainted due to the fact that her mother is no longer alive to make amends. To understand how complicated Jennifer's dynamic with her mother really was, it's important to consider the cultural and generational context in which Nancy Dow raised Jennifer. Hollywood, especially during the latter half of the 20th century, had extremely rigid beauty standards that placed intense pressure on actresses, and often their families, to appear a certain way. Nancy, who had her own experiences in the entertainment industry, likely internalized these expectations and in turn unconsciously passed them down to her daughter. This deeply rooted belief in the importance of physical appearance became the bedrock of many conflicts between Jennifer and her mother. Their interactions, characterized by disagreements, misunderstandings, and outright conflict, painted a picture of a mother-daughter relationship strained by societal pressures. Nancy Dow saw Hollywood as a place of competition and aesthetic scrutiny. Jennifer, for her part, struggled to conform to her mother's ideal of beauty. From Jennifer's perspective, her mother's constant criticisms could feel like attacks on her self-worth. In interviews, Jennifer has hinted that she was never good enough in her mother's eyes, a sentiment that she carried well into adulthood. This cycle of criticism and insecurity took on a life of its own as Jennifer matured and tried to carve out her own identity, one separate from her mother's legacy. According to close acquaintances of the family, Nancy believed being brutally honest in her eyes was a way of helping Jennifer toughen up for an unforgiving industry. But to Jennifer, these criticisms felt more like barbs that hurt rather than assisted. Over time, the emotional toll on Jennifer was evident. She has spoken about how this tension in her upbringing contributed to her eventually learning to be more empathetic toward herself and others. Another aspect that contributed to the tumult was the public nature of their disputes. Once Jennifer became famous, many details of her strained relationship with Nancy were spotlighted in the media. This made it even harder for them to privately resolve their issues. Jennifer found herself at the center of Hollywood gossip columns, with speculation running rampant about how the star couldn't get along with her mother. Nancy, for her part, occasionally added to the media frenzy, whether intentionally or unintentionally, by granting interviews that discussed Jennifer's personal life. The mother-daughter bond that should have been nurtured behind closed doors was instead splayed out for the world to analyze. Importantly, Nancy's eventual death in 2016 closed the door on any chance for Jennifer to fully reconcile in person with her mother. Though they had periods where their relationship softened, many fans and commentators have noted that the wounds ran deep. The fact that they never had the opportunity to truly mend everything weighs heavily on Jennifer's outlook about parent-child relationships in general. It also serves as a cautionary tale about letting grievances fester without finding constructive ways to heal. Before her mother's passing, Jennifer did attempt to navigate these tensions by recognizing that Nancy's behavior was, in part, shaped by her own upbringing and experiences in show business. This attempt at empathy allowed Jennifer to see her mother as a product of her time, rather than simply an adversary. However, the emotional residue of feeling overly criticized is not something that disappears overnight, and the mother-daughter rift remains one of the most talked about aspects of Jennifer's personal life. Despite the pain, Jennifer's journey with her mother's memory has taught her how vital self-compassion and empathy can be. In many of Jennifer's interviews, she has discussed the possibility of turning pain into personal growth, a lesson that resonates with countless people worldwide who struggle to find common ground with their parents. This overarching theme underscores how Jennifer's story has become an emblematic example of reconciliation, heartbreak, and resilience all at once. Jennifer Aniston has never been shy about sharing the fact that she had a difficult time growing up. Her father left her mother when the star was young, and her relationship with her mother was never very healthy. Both her parents were veteran actors, which affected their views on parenting in different ways. Jennifer's father was adamant he didn't want his daughter pursuing any career in Hollywood due to the fact he was afraid she might get rejected as a result of the industry's strict beauty standards. While this may seem like a well-intentioned notion, it affected the young woman's self-esteem and only made her that much more driven to succeed. Contrastingly, her mother was so caught up in the beauty standards of the industry that she made young Jennifer feel insecure by imposing them on her. Growing up in a household where both parents were involved in the entertainment industry created a unique atmosphere for Jennifer. On one hand, she was surrounded by the glitz and glamour of Hollywood from a very young age, meeting actors, hearing industry gossip, and sometimes getting glimpses into the lifestyle of successful performers. On the other hand, she directly witnessed the more challenging side of show business, the anxiety of auditioning, the sting of rejection, and the pressure to uphold a flawless image. This duality meant that while she learned about acting techniques and the joy of performance early on, she also developed a keen sense of the instability that often accompanies an acting career. Her father, John Aniston, was particularly wary of letting Jennifer walk down the same tumultuous road, and though he likely believed he was acting in her best interest, his discouragement came across as a lack of faith in her abilities. This dynamic, where Jennifer felt both drawn to the craft and implicitly discouraged by a parental figure she respected, fueled a complex range of emotions. She wanted to prove not only her father wrong, but also to prove to herself that she could succeed in a field where she had grown up seeing people fail daily. Meanwhile, Nancy Dow's fixation on Hollywood's beauty standards placed a separate but equally potent form of pressure on Jennifer's shoulders. Young girls can internalize parental critiques about weight, facial features, posture, and style in ways that can shape their self-esteem for life. Jennifer found herself trapped between two extremes. One parent telling her not to pursue her dreams because of potential failure, and another urging her, consciously or unconsciously, to look and behave a certain way that might match the ideals of casting agents or public opinion. These conflicting signals created a dissonance that Jennifer later described as integral to her fight for independence and self-acceptance. Adding to this complexity was Jennifer's exposure to the precarious nature of relationships in Hollywood. When her parents separated, it underscored for her that fame and professional success do not guarantee personal happiness. This awareness, introduced at such a formative stage, likely contributed to Jennifer's later struggles and triumphs in her personal life, particularly in her romantic relationships. The seeds of mistrust, both in love and in the viability of a stable home, were sown early given her father's departure. Through interviews and anecdotal stories from friends, it's clear that Jennifer felt her father's departure as a profound sense of abandonment. It is also worth noting that Jennifer's parents, being from a generation that had its own ideals about child rearing, were not as open about discussing emotions or mental health as modern families might be. Challenges, especially emotional ones, were often swept under the rug or dealt with behind closed doors. This made it more difficult for Jennifer to process her feelings about her parents' separation. Her mother, entangled in her own emotional struggles, may not have been able to provide the compassionate, guiding presence Jennifer needed at that time. Despite all this, Jennifer found subtle ways of surviving and thriving. She developed a sense of humor early on, something she has said functioned as both a defense mechanism and a way to cope with the tension at home. Her comedic timing, which later became a signature trait of her acting, was partially honed by learning to diffuse conflicts with jokes or lighten the mood when arguments broke out. This ability would serve her well not only in her personal relationships, but also in audition rooms, where comedic roles often demanded an innate sense of timing that can't be easily taught. As she ventured deeper into her adolescent years, Jennifer discovered that she was more resilient than she had realized. The very adversity she encountered at home, fear of rejection from her father, impossible standards from her mother, helped her build a steadfast determination to succeed on her own terms. She internalized the idea that no one else would truly believe in her if she didn't believe in herself. This sense of self-reliance, cultivated through hardship, laid the foundation for a future in which Jennifer would often take calculated risks, trusting her instincts more than anyone else's opinion. In retrospect, Jennifer has acknowledged that these early experiences, while painful, taught her valuable lessons about authenticity, empathy, and perseverance. The complexities of her parents' influences led her to recognize how crucial emotional support is in a person's formative years. She also learned that sometimes the best form of vindication against doubts, be they external or internal, is unwavering success that aligns with one's own values. In Jennifer's case, forging a path in Hollywood that satisfied her creative aspirations and personal needs became both her challenge and her calling. Jennifer's parents are John Aniston and the now deceased Nancy Dow. Her father has had many roles on TV, including one on the popular soap opera Days of Our Lives that he has occupied since 1985. Her mother performed in a handful of roles between 1966 and 1969, including a role in the show Wild Wild West. She acted on film once more before her death, playing a small role in a 2004 film called Pure. Jennifer's mother was strict about the way Jennifer looked. Nancy's Hollywood attitude to beauty always made the young Jennifer feel inferior. In her teenage years, Jennifer rebelled with a style that saw the young star try to look as unattractive as possible. However, she would use her insecurities to drive herself to be the best. Still, even with this determination, she didn't find success overnight. Jennifer has expressed that the situation between her and her parents allowed her to grow in more ways than just her Hollywood career. The star has said the tumultuous relationship between her and her parents has given her a deeper understanding of how not to treat people, and she's been able to put the trauma found in her relationship with her mother to good use in her film roles, such as the recent Netflix film Dumplin. In that film, Jennifer played a mother who treated her daughter not too dissimilarly from the way Jennifer's real-life mother treated her. Jennifer didn't find success at first, but persevered. After a few menial jobs in Hollywood, she was given a couple of film roles. One such role was in the cult horror film Leprechaun. Despite her early roles not gaining much mass success, they did manage to catch the attention of the right people. Soon into her Hollywood career, Jennifer was cast in the sitcom Friends. As we all know, it was through her role as Rachel Green in Friends that the actress truly came into her own in the public eye. Finally, she was able to prove her father wrong. However, her mother wasn't looking to be impressed. Jennifer's mother continued deriding her, and their relationship. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you hit the like button and show your support, and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Throughout the 90s, Jennifer Aniston's mom capitalized on her daughter's newfound fame by publicizing details about their tumultuous relationship. She did so both in the form of a 1996 interview on hard copy, as well as a full memoir detailing intimate details of their lives. This memoir was called From Mother and Daughter to Friends, a memoir. From the title alone, it's apparent Nancy was using the notoriety of Friends to get attention for herself. Despite the fact that her book sold some copies, this venture came at the cost of alienating her daughter. This sequence of events caused a rift between the two that lasted nearly a decade. Eventually, their relationship was mended, but the reconciliation didn't last long. Jennifer and her mother reconnected after Jennifer's separation from Brad Pitt. Her marriage to Brad had caused Jennifer to reflect on her parents' relationship when she was growing up and gave her some sympathy for her mother. Besides this, Jennifer had also had some time to reflect on her mother's own troubled childhood. As with many cases of mental abuse, Nancy was only perpetuating passive-aggressive tendencies that had been passed on to her by her own mother. According to Jennifer, she began to see her mother in a new light and was more accepting of her flaws. Similarly, Jennifer had long since forgiven her father at this point for leaving their family. In her eyes, she could either harbor the same type of negative feelings that had caused her parents to behave the way they did, or she could use these feelings as a learning experience to be the bigger person. Despite having learned so many lessons about the art of parenting through her traumatic childhood experiences, Jennifer has never made the decision to become a parent herself. She's now 51 years old and considers her friends to be her true family. She's been married twice, once to Brad Pitt and once again to fellow actor Justin Theroux. Her marriage to Brad lasted from 2000 to 2005, while her marriage to Justin lasted from 2015 to 2017. Despite the marriage's ending, Jennifer's emotional wisdom allowed her to maintain positive relationships with both men after the dissolution of the relationships. Instead of parenting, Jennifer has focused on self-healing, trying to overcome the negative patterns of her parents that she was affected by when she was growing up. She's also channeled that energy into her performances, such as the aforementioned Dumplin. One of the most frequently asked questions Jennifer faces in the media is whether she wants children. Throughout her career, tabloids have speculated endlessly about her relationships and her potential pregnancies, often painting her as someone longing for motherhood. However, Jennifer has consistently pushed back on these narratives, emphasizing that the decision to have children is personal and not reflective of her worth or success as a woman. Her stance challenges societal assumptions that women, especially famous actresses, must become mothers to be fulfilled. In multiple interviews, Jennifer has discussed how she views motherhood. She doesn't dismiss the idea outright, but frames it as a choice that each woman should be allowed to make without external judgment. Given her own turbulent upbringing, it's plausible she wanted to ensure she had worked through her personal traumas before bringing a child into the world. She didn't want to risk perpetuating the same emotional cycles of criticism or neglect she experienced with her mother. Meanwhile, Jennifer's friendships have taken on an almost familial role in her life. The close bond she formed with her co-stars on Friends are well documented. They collectively negotiated the show's success, contract negotiations, and the pressures of fame. Beyond that, Jennifer has cultivated long-standing friendships with other actors, producers, and individuals outside the entertainment industry. She often refers to this circle of friends as her chosen family, a phrase that speaks to her understanding that family need not be defined strictly by blood ties. Regarding her romantic life, the media frenzy surrounding her divorce from Brad Pitt was one of the most pervasive celebrity stories of the mid-2000s. Observers were quick to draw parallels between Jennifer's heartbreak and her childhood experiences. Yet, she navigated the aftermath with a level of grace that many found admirable. While acknowledging the pain, she refrained from publicly lashing out or turning the divorce into a tabloid spectacle, a testament to the lessons in composure she learned in her youth. Her subsequent marriage to Justin Theroux also ended in a highly scrutinized breakup. But again, Jennifer and Justin remained amicable, often speaking kindly of each other in the press. Such civility stands in stark contrast to her parents' acrimonious separation, underscoring how Jennifer actively chose a different path. She refused to let bitterness define her adult relationships, seeking to part ways respectfully if things didn't work out. Additionally, Jennifer's personal healing has involved philanthropy and charitable work. She has donated both time and money to a variety of causes, including supporting hospitals, cancer research, and humanitarian organizations. Some of these causes reflect her empathy for those dealing with loss or trauma, while others align with her desire to empower young women to find self-worth beyond traditional beauty standards. In interviews, she often references how giving back helps her maintain perspective, something that keeps her grounded in an industry rife with superficial concerns. Her role in Dumplin exemplifies how she channels her self-reflective insights into her acting. Playing a mother figure who imposes strict standards on her daughter echoed Jennifer's real-life experiences with Nancy. Yet, Jennifer also brought a nuanced portrayal to the character, showing glimpses of vulnerability and regret beneath the surface. This performance was lauded by critics and fans alike for its authenticity, one that could only come from someone who had lived through a similar emotional landscape. Overall, Jennifer's personal life choices are marked by a conscious departure from the turbulent patterns she observed growing up. While she may not have chosen the path of motherhood, she has embraced nurturing in other ways, toward her friends, her charitable causes, and perhaps most crucially, toward herself. This holistic approach to self-healing has allowed Jennifer to break the cycle of negativity she once knew, replacing it with healthy boundaries, emotional honesty, and meaningful connections. That recent Netflix film featured Jennifer as a mother who was particularly rough on her young daughter. In Dumplin, Jennifer's character was a former beauty queen, much in the same way Jennifer's own mother was a former actress. This past caused the mother to impose abusively strict beauty standards on her daughter. Once again, this mirrored Jennifer's own childhood almost completely. The movie depicted the tormented child attempting to win a beauty contest to impress her mother, much in the same way Jennifer started her Hollywood career to prove to her parents she was capable of being just as famous as them, and more. Jennifer's mother died in 2016 after suffering 2 strokes earlier in the decade. According to Jennifer, their relationship had seemed to be almost completely restored near the end of her mother's life. However, Jennifer found out soon after her mother's death that she had been left out of her will. The rest of the family had no idea and were taken aback when it was revealed Jennifer wasn't included. A will had already been drafted that included Jennifer, but Nancy changed it soon before her death. All of her mother's remaining wealth went to another family member. Jennifer had been paying most of her mother's bills in the years leading up to her death, which made the lack of inheritance offensive. The will allowed the other family member to possess a good deal of personal writings that included details about Jennifer's own life. Her mother had written much more than what was published in her 1999 memoir, and now all that information is in the hands of someone who could try to profit off it in the future. Nancy Dow's final act, excluding Jennifer from her will, cast a bittersweet pall over what was, at least outwardly, a time of tentative healing. The revelation came as a shock not just to Jennifer, but also to other family members who had witnessed the pair's reconciliation efforts in Nancy's later years. Having financially supported her mother, covering medical expenses and living costs, Jennifer understandably felt blindsided by Nancy's decision to disinherit her. This situation ignited further questions about Nancy's state of mind toward the end of her life. Some speculate that old resentments or fears flared up once again, leading Nancy to amend her will out of lingering bitterness or mistrust. Others suggest that perhaps Nancy was under external influences, or that her cognitive function had declined to a point where she might not have fully grasped the gravity of her actions. Regardless of the motivation, the result was a final blow that reopened old wounds for Jennifer. The inheritance itself might have been of minimal concern to Jennifer, given her substantial wealth from her acting career. However, the symbolic message of being excluded was painfully clear. The final legal document of Nancy Dow, the same woman who had once publicly criticized Jennifer in memoirs and interviews, now effectively erased her from any formal recognition. This was an emotional gut punch, as it represented a definitive, irreversible statement that Nancy had never fully forgiven Jennifer, or at least had never fully embraced their reconciled relationship. Compounding this heartbreak was the revelation that Nancy had left personal writings behind, journals, letters, and notes that delved even deeper into her life, her thoughts, and presumably her relationship with Jennifer. The question of whether these writings could be sold or leaked created anxiety. Would these private reflections become public fodder, reviving the same invasive scrutiny Jennifer had fought so hard to escape? The possibility of personal details being made public, details more intimate than even Nancy's prior memoir, introduced a layer of uncertainty that loomed over Jennifer in the wake of her mother's death. Some in Jennifer's inner circle expressed outrage on her behalf, criticizing Nancy's decision as vindictive. Yet Jennifer's public statements remained relatively composed, consistent with her tendency to keep personal matters private. While she hasn't shared much about her deepest feelings on the will's specifics, those close to the actress say that she was disheartened and hurt. After all the strides they had made, it felt like a betrayal from beyond the grave. Nevertheless, Jennifer seemed to navigate this final disappointment with the emotional tools she had spent a lifetime developing. She continued to honor her mother's memory when speaking publicly, avoiding any incendiary remarks that might tarnish Nancy's legacy. This was in stark contrast to Nancy's earlier approach of publicly divulging private family details. By taking the high road, Jennifer underscored the personal growth and introspection that allowed her to break from the cycle of bitterness that defined much of her parents' relationship. Despite her relationship with her mother ending negatively, Jennifer is currently on better terms than ever with her previously estranged father. Since the start of the pandemic, the two have been talking on the phone nearly every day. Both have grown a great deal over the years, and John is incredibly happy he's been given the chance to rectify the mistakes he made when Jennifer was a child. Likewise, Jennifer is incredibly happy to have her dad back. The renewal of Jennifer's relationship with John Aniston is a rare bright spot in a family history marked by estrangement, tension, and heartbreak. Over the years, John had made intermittent efforts to reconnect, but it often took Jennifer time to trust him again. As she grew older, her perspective on her father's departure in her childhood shifted from resentment to a nuanced understanding of the personal struggles he may have faced. John Aniston's role on Days of Our Lives remained steady, and he built a legacy as one of daytime TV's most recognizable faces. This stability contrasted sharply with Jennifer's meteoric rise to fame. Yet in their later conversations, father and daughter found common ground in discussing the complexities of show business. John offered Jennifer advice from his years of steady work, while Jennifer introduced him to the realities of modern Hollywood stardom, where social media, paparazzi, and viral gossip added layers of complication he never had to face in the same way. When the COVID-19 pandemic began, it acted as a catalyst for many people to reassess their priorities and relationships. For Jennifer, the uncertainty and fear of global events made her realize the importance of cherishing loved ones while they were still around. She initiated more frequent phone calls with John, bridging the emotional gap that had lingered for decades. In these calls, they talked about everyday life, sometimes discussing old family stories, sometimes sharing small updates like what they cooked for dinner or how they were passing the time in lockdown. John's perspective also shifted in these later years. Realizing that he was entering a new phase of life, he became increasingly appreciative of Jennifer's forgiveness and willingness to include him. Once haunted by regrets of leaving his family, John found solace in the knowledge that Jennifer not only understood him better, but also genuinely wanted him in her life. This mutual growth was a testament to the power of forgiveness, a living example of how relationships can be revived even after long stretches of estrangement. Their renewed bond also gave Jennifer a chance to gain a fresh perspective on her mother's behavior. While Nancy was no longer there to offer clarifications or apologies, John could shed light on certain events that Jennifer might have misunderstood as a child. This brought additional nuance to Jennifer's memories, helping her see her mother's actions not just as personal attacks, but as part of a larger story of marital discord and unresolved traumas on both sides. This closeness with her father comes at a time when Jennifer seems to be in one of the most balanced and self-actualized phases of her life. She has achieved blockbuster success, explored multiple genres in film and television, ventured into production, and even launched projects that reflect her personal interests such as health and wellness. Having John's emotional support, however belated, provides a semblance of familial anchor that was absent for much of her adulthood. In many ways, this father-daughter reconciliation serves as a fitting counterpoint to the unresolved tensions with Nancy. Where Jennifer was denied the chance to fully heal with her mother, she now has the opportunity to rebuild bridges with her father. The difference is that both parties are willing participants who have learned from past mistakes. Jennifer's ability to open her heart, despite previous hurts, highlights the core lesson of her journey. We are not doomed to repeat the cycles we inherit if we consciously choose compassion and growth. With the memory of Nancy's final snub fresh in her mind, Jennifer's decision to embrace her father stands out as a testament to her emotional fortitude. It illustrates how, even when one parental relationship ends on an ambiguous or painful note, another can flourish if nurtured with honesty, empathy, and mutual respect. Today, Jennifer's regular phone calls with John Aniston stand as a symbol of redemption, a quiet daily ritual that affirms the idea that it is never too late to mend what has been broken, so long as both sides genuinely commit to healing. Thank you for watching. Through heartbreak, estrangement, and personal growth, Jennifer's story stands as a reminder of the resilience it takes to overcome a difficult family history. While she found incredible fame and success, Jennifer's experiences with her mother and father left lasting imprints on her life, shaping the person and performer we know today. If you found this video insightful, please give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind your favorite stars. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more fascinating content soon.